3 signs that your pastor might not be good at receiving feedback on the Church Revitalization Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Church Revitalization Podcast, brought to you by the Malphurs Group team, where each week we tackle important, actionable topics to help churches thrive. And now, here's your hosts, Scott Ball and A.J. Mathieu.
Welcome to the Church Revitalization Podcast. My name is Scott Ball. I'm joined by my friend and co-host, A.J. Mathieu.
As always.
We've titled this 3 Signs Your Pastor Can't Receive Feedback, but it could be you.
Could be you. Could be you.
How do you think you and I are at receiving feedback?
Pretty good. From each other, I think pretty good.
What do you, as opposed to what?
I think, varying relationships. Yeah, there might be other people that don't necessarily want to get any feedback from. That's probably true.
Really,
that's probably true of a lot of people.
I just love the way that you said that. From each other, pretty good. I think, yeah. You know what? I think there are some people you're way more open to receiving feedback from me than from other people.
For sure. Yeah. There are people that be like, I don't want to hear anything from you. So,
then this episode is for you, AJ.
Not everybody's feedback is valid or wanted.
It's so funny. Yeah, I actually think we're pretty good. I don't know. I think my wife might be surprised to hear me say, I think I'm actually pretty good at receiving feedback. Maybe I'm better at receiving feedback from other people than from my spouse. That's normal, right? I think that's normal.
I think this is not something that you are going to be consistent across all relationships. I think, relationships are different. Scenarios are different. I mean, this is a very broad topic. Yeah. I don't think you can just say this person is good or bad at receiving feedback. There's some pretty awful people out there that probably don't want to hear anything from anyone.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But most people, it just depends on the situation and the relationships. And, I mean, before we hit record, we were talking about some rather narcissistic pastors that we've dealt with over the years. And, I think those kinds of guys probably don't receive feedback well from anybody.
No.
But,
one thing that I love getting feedback on, genuinely, is the Healthy Churches Toolkit, because it's something
you love the praise that you receive.
No, actually, I love the criticism too, because I like fixing it. I like making it better. So that should actually be an encouragement to you to sign up, to go to healthychurchestoolkit.com, sign up free for 7 days. Because if you see something and you go, hey, I wish it was better at this, or I wish this was more clear, or I wish I could find XYZ thing, or I wish there were more of this, I think we're really responsive to that feedback. And I think our current subscribers would echo that and go, hey, yeah, man, when we have a problem, they get on it right away and they fix that thing. So, and I would say that'd be at one area where it's really difficult to hurt my feelings, even though I'm really proud of it. And I really think it is the premier church leadership operating system out there. I'm not defensive about hey, I wish I could do this thing, or I wish, because to me, it's it's a project that's never finished, and it's a thing that can always be better. So I don't know, hard to hurt my feelings with it, because I always agree. I'd be like, yeah, that would be great. I might not be able to add every feature you'd like for it to have, but we add a lot.
Yeah. I think that's a fair assessment. I think you do. Yeah. You're very good about that. I commend you.
Thank you. I received that feedback, and I appreciate it.
All right, let's talk about.
That was my way of weaving in the ad.
That was a good
topic.
Ad. That seemed very natural.
It was good. It was very natural.
All right, but every pastor does not naturally receive feedback well, and
there are signs.
There are signs. Let's just jump into this, because the first one is defensiveness. They might shut down a conversation and just really push back against something, or try to deflect, or try to make excuses. So, it is a difficult thing. I guess, I don't know. there's a lot of reasons. There could be a lot of valid reasons. I guess I don't want to necessarily say that this is unwarranted. There's just an infinite number of scenarios in which somebody is operating in a leadership capacity, what's going on with them, even on that day, the particular time.
Mm-hmm.
You would hope that they would have a level of, emotional quotient in which, if it is just a bad day for them, they could take it, they could hear and respond in a mature and appropriate way. So I guess maybe that's the difference perhaps in this episode. It's people that lack maybe the EQ to be able to deal with feedback.
Which go back a few episodes to episode 338 if you'd like to hear more about EQ.
Yeah. That's good. I would suggest that as well. That was just a month or so ago that we talked about that. But yeah, defensiveness. That's if you're consistently seeing defensiveness when you bring something to your pastor or some leader in your church, then maybe feedback reception is not their strong suit.
I think I'm going to play devil's advocate here a little bit. I think that sometimes we have to be in a position. Again, even just thinking about, you and I have worked together for a very long time at this point. And I think that I can say to you at some point, to be like, I cannot take any feedback right now on this. You know what I mean? Like I can be like so locked in on what I'm doing or just frustrated or having a bad day and just have to say, can we like work through or can we have this conversation not right now?
Yeah. Because
I'm not in a place where I can process what it is that you're saying, because I want to hear the feedback but it needs to be constructive. And I think it's fair to say that sometimes we're just not in a place where we can hear it and receive it and process it in a way that's going to be healthy. And
even that though, that's an awareness of emotional quotient to be able to know this isn't a good time. Let's talk about this later. So,
and I think that it's important maybe just as pastors to go, you don't always get to choose when someone wants to give you feedback, but you can choose how you respond to it. And so if you're not in a good spot, you're doing someone a kindness by saying like I want to hear what you're saying right now, but I'm I'm locked in on my sermon, or, hey, I've got 5 crises on right now. I'm not going to be hearing what you are saying. Can we schedule a time to connect so that I can hear it? Because I'm afraid right now I'm just going to get defensive or shut this down or just not even process it. And so I think that this defensiveness sometimes happens just because we're not being intentional about when we're hearing the feedback, so we just go, we just shut it down rather than really hear it. And so, maybe have the awareness. Am I in a mental space where I can hear this and process it, or am I not? And if you're not, you should just say that and be like, I'm not going to be able to hear what you're saying right now.
Right. That's a mature and reasonable way, I think, of handling that. So if your pastor pulls that 3-4 times on you, like every time I come around, there's something else, then patterns do reveal something. So
that's true. Although if you're the person who has feedback every Sunday on the sermon, like
you're the problem.
You're the problem. Yeah. Not every thought. I'm working on this with my daughter. She's 11, and I'm like, honey, not every thought needs to be an outside thought. Some thoughts can be an inside thought. Just you can keep that one to yourself.
Although we have met pastors in which, you could probably give them some feedback every Sunday.
I'm not saying it didn't warrant. They are the problem. I'm just saying it's not fair. I mean, you gotta pick them. You got to sometimes go, this one's not worth it. I'm gonna keep that one. That's gonna be an inside feedback thought. Yeah.
I'll complain to my wife about that.
Yeah, exactly. Write the email and then delete it.
Yes. Email deletion therapy is an excellent tool.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever been like, I'm going to write this, how I'm really feeling?
Yeah. Oh man, shoot. if I actually posted the things that I write on Facebook before deleting.
I've deleted a number of comments that I was going to post. I'm like, I don't even say that.
I mean, yeah, you get 4 or 5 sentences in, and you're like, and I sit there and I'm like, this person is not even. Why am I putting this much effort in? This person is not worth this response. Just forget it.
Okay, so number one, if you're defensive all the time, that's going to shut down feedback that you need to hear. So don't do that.
All right. Second sign is that the messenger gets punished. So we're talking like, third-party information coming in. Maybe it's a staff member bringing something to the pastor that, one of their small group leaders said. Yeah, I mean, something. And this innocent person that's just trying to convey some information becomes then the one receiving the wrath or the response back that is an unhealthy response. So the messenger getting punished, and especially, again, I think a lot of this stuff is pattern based. If this is consistent, then we've got a pastor that's not receiving feedback well or is completely disinterested.
I mean, this can happen where, a staff person or a board member or whatever is bringing information to another leader or to the pastor, and then somehow the conversation devolves into a character assassination of the person who's delivering the data to you, and that's not good. Like that, when it becomes an ad hominem attack on the person who's just giving the information, and it becomes about them. This is like hallmark classic narcissistic behavior to somehow manipulate a situation so that the problem that we're trying to look at, it doesn't become about the problem anymore, the objective thing. It becomes subjective and about the person who's delivering the information. So we've got episodes on that as well. You can go back and watch. But it's really unhealthy. And I would call this like a super red flag. If you find yourself doing this, like when someone brings you information you don't like, you'd make it about them. That should be a signal to you that something is fundamentally wrong with you. Because they're just bringing the information. You know what I mean? Like they're telling you something you need to hear. And if you then attack that person, the first one's being defensive. The second is you are attacking the individual who's bringing you information you don't want to know.
Yeah.
That's of all the three things we're going to talk about, that's probably the most dangerous. I'd go, you need some help.
Yeah. And then the third one is likely what you end up finding happening, and that's the decisions then end up being made in a vacuum. Or what we mean by that is that then that pastor that doesn't like to receive feedback stops including others in decision making and just chooses to work unilaterally to avoid hearing things that he doesn't want to hear. And so these things, I think, stack. I think you would find if you've got the first two, you might start seeing or already do see the third one.
Yeah.
And we've certainly seen pastors. If you're doing the third one,
be careful, but please share this story of that we were talking about in prep for this.
in a generic way,
because it's like classic. I mean, it's the most perfect example of this in action.
Yeah, so we worked with a church. The pastor was definitely, I mean, the signs were there, and even people.
Probably the other things that we just talked about, were already also. I mean, they're for sure. Actually, I know for sure both of those things were already happening.
Yeah, went through strategic envisioning process reluctantly, tried to make it seem like he was on board, but he really wasn't. And I think the people that we were working most closely with definitely they knew that too. But so it was a missions thing, right, Scott?
I think so.
We had talked about some.
I don't know. I wasn't there. You were there.
In our strategic envisioning session, there had been discussions about some new ways of handling some missions going forward. And then the next day, this was on a Saturday. The next day at church, like there was already stuff had been printed for a missions effort that he was all about on his own. It was done. Like nobody even knew that it was coming. So on a Saturday,
he did not even mention it on Saturday.
Yeah.
He didn't say, "Oh, by the way, when you roll up in the parking lot tomorrow and hop into the building, there are going to be flyers on every seat about this thing that I have just decided that we're doing."
Yeah. Right. Yes. So that was a decision made in a vacuum for sure, because that's how.
Well, and everybody else on the team was like, "What the heck? Like, what is this? Why did we not know? Why did this not even come up in the whole day yesterday that we were rolling into this?"
Yeah.
Because he could have said, I mean, he totally could have said, "Hey, look, we've already printed this stuff. Like, it's going to be on the seats."
Yeah.
You could have incorporated that into the conversation or something, but he just didn't. This was crazy.
Because the fact was, he made the decisions he wanted to make all the time. And any involvement that anybody thought they had was only to the extent that he let them think that.
Yeah. This same individual, I went and did Leadership Pipeline like the next month, actually, and went through the whole thing. We made all these plans, kind of mapped everything out, and then I had to leave to go catch a flight. And he asked the rest of the team to stay in the room for a few extra minutes to wrap up. And I was told after the fact that as soon as I left the room, he said, "Yeah, we're not going to do any of that." And I was like, "What are we doing?" Like, which is it's so funny to me. You know this. I mean, obviously you know this, AJ, but listener, you should know. Like the way that we operate, we don't come in and tell you what to do. Like we facilitate. You're in the driver's seat the whole time, making the decisions on what you want to do. And so the irony of the whole thing is like, well, what was the point of all of that? Because it's not like I was in here. It wasn't as if they had invited me to come in and I was going to present a plan for them to execute. And then they could decide whether or not they were going to do it. The whole point of it is for them to build something that they feel good about, that they want to execute on. So the whole team, it wasn't that I had come in, I had built something and I had presented it. That's not what happened. I had come in, they built something. And then he said, "Yeah, we're not going to do any of that." It was so disempowering to the rest of the team. They were like, then this was a complete waste of 2 days of working together.
Yeah.
What were we doing?
Well,
sorry, that was maybe the most egregious. There are other examples, but that was maybe the most egregious example of this.
Yeah. Well, and throughout that process really kind of exposed, he couldn't really hide anymore from that. It was too much in the open, and he left. So
it was a while. It was
6 months later.
Yeah, maybe 6 months or something.
Yeah. Yep. Oh boy. Yep. So decisions made in a vacuum. That was the third one. That pastor that's just like, well, I'm just going to do whatever I want because I don't really want to hear from you anyway. So
yeah. I mean, I know that's an extreme example, AJ, what we just shared, but this kind of stuff happens all the time on a less egregious, smaller scale. Like if you find yourself making every decision, then that's not a good thing. I guess one thing I'd want to say in connection to that is sometimes pastors find themselves making unilateral decisions all the time, but it isn't because they don't want feedback. It's because they're just not getting any. You know, people are like, the people are just apathetic. They don't care. They go, well, we got a pastor. We're hiring him. That's what he should do. I'm not going to get involved in that. So it isn't that they aren't open to feedback. They kind of just get pushed into this situation. Mm-hmm. But the consequence is the same. And I would just say that's why it's so important for you to be proactive in building feedback loops and not just wait for the feedback to come to you. Because whether it's because of unhealth in your leadership that you find yourself making decisions in isolation, which is, what we've been kind of focusing on, or if it's just by default that people don't care enough to say something, the effect is the same. Which is that it's not always going to be the optimal decision-making that happens when you don't get any sort of feedback. So be proactive in creating those feedback loops.
Yeah, because when you are open to that, and it does take a level of humility, I think this is a right posture, but, over time, and I'm not talking years, I mean, just over even a short period of time, when you are open to receiving feedback and there people feel comfortable talking with you, that's going to be good information, because if you're hearing similar things from a variety of sources, that, this is how you can maybe grow as a leader. And so you can continue to stiff arm people and be defensive about everything. But if you're willing to hear, then you might be able to really improve your leadership skills and how you relate to people.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the thing. The leaders who last the longest and lead the best are those who are hungry for feedback. They want to work on a team. So think about feedback as a discipleship tool. And remember that humility in leadership isn't just a cultural thing where it's like, we care about it in some cultures and not in others. It's a thing that Jesus wanted us to live out with one another. This is a biblical principle that the one who is greatest among us will be the one who's the biggest servant. And so asking for feedback is a metaphorical way to wash the feet of the people that you are called to serve. And so don't feel threatened by other people's opinions. Recognize that you are in the position that you're in because the Lord placed you there, and other people's opinions and other people's feedback does not require you to act in a certain way or to make a particular decision, but know that it can inform your decision making in a way that when you don't have any feedback, you're at a disadvantage. And so don't feel threatened by it. Don't attack, and don't make decisions in a vacuum. Invite feedback, be humble, and listen. And that will set you up for really good decision making.
There you go. Good advice. This has been the Church Revitalization Podcast. We're glad you're with us. We'll see you again next week.